I am your host today. And if you need any information, you can speak to our host and our hostesses that will assist you during the evening. So we're just going to wait for everybody to take their seats, and we will start with our proceedings. What a beautiful night, ladies and gentlemen. And me, I'm already in summer. I am ready. I I'm already in summer. I am done. I am done adulting. I am done wearing heavy coats. And so tonight we are here. Please may we be mindful of the cameras tonight. So if you need to walk across, please walk in between the tables. And welcome to the Nedbank private off-the-menu event for young professionals. I'll be your host. My name is Aurelia Hlopsile Ngumalo, and I'm your programs manager. And welcome to this amazing networking event and the great work that has been done and produced by Nedbank. We are in the era of social sharing and social media, of course, so please make use of our hashtags, which is hashtag take your money seriously, hashtag Nedbank young professionals, and hashtag Nedbank private clients. And don't forget to tag at Nedbank. Please make sure that your posts are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so that you can also be part of the online engagement. While we do encourage you to use your mobile devices, please keep them on silent. And this is not a non-smoking venue, but if you are a smoker, the area for smoking is right behind us, so just go through the doors. The restrooms are to my left, and if there is a real emergency, please may we exit the venue in an orderly fashion and meet at the assembly point, which is right outside. So, with all of those household and requirements, and for us to also just have a very good evening and enjoy the food and enjoy the wine, we'd like to get that just out of the way. So we have an amazing food and wine pairing. Chef Warren will be joining us later to explain the menu. So this is the Nedbank private off-the-menu event for young professionals, and it's brought to you by Nedbank, of course. Need I say more? How amazing, and thank you to Nedbank for this. Can you please So, I have been given the duties to manage, and I would like Thuli to come on stage, our Nedbank representative, to talk about why we're here, what is the drive and the purpose of this event. It's Heine.
Hello. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much. So I am Julie. I am Thuli. Can you hear me? Thank you. I am Thuli.
And I'm Anissa.
And we are from Retail Relationship in Nedbank. We are acquisition managers. So we're the hunters for the bank. And we are super excited to be here. It's at night. We're drinking wine. We are happy to be here. So thank you so much for granting us this opportunity and just giving us an ear just to speak. Okay, so if you're 30 years and you're younger and you have a 4-year qualification, we are here for you. And this is why we're here, just to speak to you. And we strongly believe in you. We believe in the journey that you're going to take. We believe in everything that's going to happen. So we know you're going places. And therefore, we want to partner with you and just be there with you.
So our strong young value proposition Actually, he's just going to start with that.
So private banking experience, we give you a 50% discount, the full package, the whole experience. We give you 50%, all because you're young. So it's actually just the perfect time to be young. So this is basically dedicated to everybody that has so much aspirations and you know you're going places, and we just want to be there with you. You're a specialist in your field and you're climbing the corporate ladder, so this is why we want to talk to you, basically.
So our banking packages come with a dedicated relationship banker and a 24-hour contact center.
We give you international travels, the whole pack, lifestyle, where you're going, the Bidvest lounges, anything for the entire family. So we offer you that pack that you can just come through with it.
So you get unlimited access to Bidvest lounges when you travel and 10 free international lounge visits.
There's also just the loans that we give you. So for 100% loans for vehicles, that's up to 400,000.
105% home loan for first-time home buyers.
We also offer you the preferential rates. So in anything that you do, the loans, the investing, anything that you're looking at, the private wealth, we give you access to that so that you can start investing and planning around what is it that you want to do in terms of your goals.
So your financial growth also comes with important decisions and responsibilities. We'll give you access to a wealth advisor to assess your financial position and your future goals. Digital when you want it and human when you need it. Please come chat to us if you have any questions about this account, and I will also come to you guys and just say hi.
So please, if there's any questions, we're sitting at that table. If there's anything you want to know, so we didn't want to go deep into it and dwell. We just wanted to give you the specs in terms of what is it about. If you want to know more details, please feel free to come and chat to us. We are Nedbank, and we're excited to have you here, and we're looking forward to banking with you. Thank you.
Have a good evening, guys.
Talk about taking your money seriously. I can vouch for this. I have explored the benefits myself on the Nedbank app, on the money tracker, on the Avo app where you need convenience, everything, and also having your relationship banker on WhatsApp, guys. I mean, you know, when you're having that meltdown at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're here. But if anybody who is not already part of the private clients, there are relationship bankers on site who you can consult with just to find out more about the benefits that were mentioned by our representatives at Nedbank. Thank you so much for that, and I look forward to hearing how many people signed up today. Cool. So we've got panelists today of our women in finance. You are going to hear their stories. You can ask them questions. You can jot down your questions that you can ask at the end of their address. And while we are, just want to introduce them accordingly with all the accolades, right? So, to kick off our panelist conversation, I'd like to introduce our very first panelist this evening. She is Head of CVP at Nedbank's Retail and Relationship Banking segment. She's also the co-founder and director of a small 100% female-owned investment company. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, please welcome Lindo Kuhle Tao.
Thanks. Evening, everyone. Thank you, Aurelia. And I am Lindo Kuhle. It's such a pleasure to be here. Welcome to everyone. And I'm just here to share my story. I'm just a simple lady from Davidson Township, and I'm just here to share how did I get to where I am today. So today is about dreams. Today is about us manifesting our dreams. And I'm just here to share how my journey has been as I'm trying to get to the dream. So I'll start off by speaking about one of the most prominent female authors in Africa. She once said, and that is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She once said, We have a world full of women who are unable to exhale fully because they have, for so long, been conditioned to fold themselves into shapes to make themselves likable. Now, I read this and I realize that actually there were moments where I've been a shape that is not truly me. And I'm sure even in the room, currently we have a lot of shapes that are not the true you. But I'm glad that as I grew in my career and as I grew in life generally, I learned the power of authenticity. It is so important. And that is why today I'm here to share my story openly and truthfully. I have been working in the financial industry for 14 years now. And when I was asked to come share my story as a young woman in finance, I was like, where do I start? You know, I started working in 2008 in a graduate program at one of the 4 big banks. Do I talk about that? You know, do I talk about the fact that I've worked for 3 different banks which have very different cultures? Do I talk about the fact that I've been bullied by a manager? Like, that's real, it exists. Where you work in an environment and you dread going to work because your manager is just a bully. Do I talk about the recognition awards that I've received throughout my career, which I'm very proud of? Do I talk about the different relationship dynamics that exist in corporate? There's just a lot to talk about, you know? So I then decided, let me rather tell my story using 4 different key themes. And they'll come out as I tell the story, but I think it gave me a bit of structure to do it that way. And these 4 key themes are things which are very simple. And some of you may think, that is so cliche, you know. But the reality of it is it's my story. It's true to me. It worked for me. So it might work for someone else. Even if it's just one person in the room, I'm happy. Right. So before I get into the story, let me list the 4 things. The first one is you need to know yourself. You need to know your vision, and you need to write it down. That is so important, writing it down. Who am I? Where am I going? Number 2, challenges will form part of your journey. You need to embrace them. They're part of life. There is no one in this room who's not going through a challenge right now. Everyone is facing some sort of a challenge. So they're part of life. Number 3, mentorship and coaching are a real thing, and they work. They really do work. Number 4, always pray to work in an environment which is aligned to your purpose and your values. That is so important. So those are the 4 things, and they'll come out in my story. So let me tell you about Ulindo Kuhle. Some call me Ulindo. Actually, most people call me Ulindo. Then people from KZN say Ulindo. For me, it's like Ulindo, man, you know? Because I grew up in Joburg. They come and tell me my name is Ulindo, you know? So I was born and raised in a township called Davidton, Evuta. Those who know Johannesburg. It's in the East Rand of Johannesburg. Grew up as the only child, no siblings. Lived with mom and dad. Mom was a teacher. Dad was employed for most of my life. Like, I don't remember my dad waking up for work. I went to very average schools. So I'm sure you can tell the English is a bit, you know, it's not, you know. So I went to very average schools. I was very average as well in terms of my marks. So I wasn't an A student, none of that. I was also very reserved. Like, I wasn't a popular girl. You know, as Kolweni, there's those ones who are quite popular. You know, I wasn't that. I was very reserved. But one thing, I had big dreams. So I didn't have everything else, but I had big dreams. And I knew that one day I will no longer be average. I knew that one day my children will grow up in an environment which is different from mine. They will live in a nice neighborhood, they'll go to nice schools. They won't go to an average school. I knew that, I believed it, and I wrote it down. In fact, let me actually fast forward to 2007. In 2007, I was doing my BCom finance degree, and I wrote this down, and I want to read it word for word. It says, I am going to be one of the leading female executives in the financial industry one day, so that I can help make decisions for the betterment of our economy, our country, and the continent at large. This is in 2007 when I wrote this. And this is the same year where everyone was actually looking forward to, we're going to do our honors next year. My mom was like, girl, I can't do this anymore. You need to find a job. You need to go work. And this is also around the same time where I experienced something so traumatic. I literally had a gun right here. As I was walking from an outside race into the campus, I was going to the library. So those who've studied at UJ would know Brixton. Yeah, so I was walking from Brixton, and I'm walking into campus, and these guys just come, hey, still phone, So everything is happening, there's so many challenges, but on that same year, I wrote down this vision. I knew that I'm going somewhere, no matter what, So I spent a lot of time, like, in the career center in that year, because I knew that I need to find a job. I put in the effort. So it's also not just about writing it down. You need to put in the effort. So I used to sit in that career center. And to fast forward, in 2008, I started my first job. 22nd of January, 2008. I walked into one of the big 4 banks as part of the graduate program. And what a fantastic opportunity. Because when you get into the graduate program, you get to rotate throughout the bank. So I studied BCom finance, right? So first one, went to a finance department. I went to, customer service department. I went to the branches. I went to private banking suites, card division, home loan division. Like, I went everywhere. And we did the rotation for 7 months. And then we were asked to choose top 3 departments that we'd like to be permanently placed in. And obviously, I studied finance. Everyone is like, yeah, she's going to go to finance. Not me. It wasn't even in my top 5. Because I rotated there, I got there, and I just saw people doing this. It's just screens, typing, there's no interaction. I'm like, that's not me. Remember the first theme? I said, you need to know yourself. I knew that's not me. I need an environment where I can engage with people, where I can, be innovative, come up with ideas, and I knew, okay, no, that's not for me. So I then I asked to be placed in a department called card. So card, that plastic you have in your wallet? That's actually a whole department. There's a whole lot of brain work sitting behind that debit card and that credit card. So I moved into that department, and there were product managers, product heads. I was so inspired. I was so inspired by the leadership in that area. And I used every opportunity to learn as much as I can. And I went knocking on doors. I knocked on the door of the director of card, and I asked, can you please mentor me? Can you tell me your story? Teach me the rules of the game. And she agreed, and I'll forever be grateful for Umamneli. She taught me so much. And can I just share that you will knock on doors, you will send emails, even on LinkedIn messages, and some won't respond to you. And it's fine. It's fine. There's so many inspiring people out there. Move on to the next one. I never let that, stop me from building my network of mentors and advisors. Now, to speed up the story, I think my time is almost running out. I started as a product assistant, helping a product manager in the card division. Then in 2010, I was promoted to product manager. Hard work pays, right? Promoted to product manager early in 2010, was enjoying my job. Like being a product manager is like you own a business because you literally can do anything and direct the strategy and everything of, the product that you're looking after. In that same year, 2010, 22nd of November, 2010, I remember the day. We actually called it Black Friday. This bank that I'm working for retrenched over 2,500 people. Like I'm thriving, like I'm doing well, and the next thing, retrenchment. I wasn't retrenched, my boss was, my immediate colleagues were, my mentor was retrenched. So for us who remained behind, obviously, we're still excited, we're grateful that we're still employed, but the environment is now cold. It's just not nice anymore. Financial industry is big. I'm that girl, I can't be here, I then put my CV out there and I get an interview. Probably one of the worst interviews I've ever had. Like, I failed that interview. But I think that guy was just in a good mood because I got the job. 2011, start my job at Nedbank. I start my job at Nedbank. I love it. And my story with Nedbank is so long. But I'm going to cut it short. Started as a product manager, promoted to senior product manager, promoted to senior product and commercialization manager. 2015, I realized I'm growing, my role is expanding. This is exciting, But something starts being a frustration. From 2008 to 2015, I've been growing in a card division. And I'm just like, okay, this is getting a bit off from my vision because now I'm becoming a card specialist, and that's not what I want, So I then decide that I need to start using the networks that I've built within the bank to try and move away from this card thing. I try, guys, 2015, 2016, 2017, nothing happened. I'm in card division, I'm frustrated. I'm an A performer. Remember I said I knew that one day I'll no longer be average. I'm an A performer, but I'm frustrated. I can't find any opportunities within the bank that I love so much. Like the values are aligned, purpose is aligned, but no opportunities. And I'm sharing this with you so that you realize these things happen. They happen. But anyway, 2018, I get a job outside of Nedbank, a competitor, bank number 3. So this one is small, it's new, innovation, like it's a very, I go there, hey, exposure is great, I'm building a bank, it's nice. I stayed there for 4 years, but I'm not happy, man. Like, I'm enjoying the job, but the culture, going back to that values and purpose, it's not aligned, I speak my truth. So I spoke to them and I told them the things that concern me about the culture, like I'm trying to, push the movement. Guys, let's fix this. It wasn't working. And in year 4, I was like, cut, It was great working there, but I need to go back home. So, getting to the end of my story, in April 2022, I then moved back to Nedbank. And I am now the head, of CVP in retail and relationship banking. Love my job. My values are aligned to Nedbank. I mean, we were speaking in that table, there's Nedbankers there, and we were just speaking about the culture. the fact that, they care about people. Other businesses, they care about the money. That's it. So me, I need someone who's going to care about me. I need someone who's going to understand that I'm a wife, I'm a mother, there's other responsibilities besides work. Now, in conclusion, I just wanted to share that in 2015, I completed my master's and I wrote a dissertation with the following title: An Evaluation of Career Development Techniques, a Case Study of South African Executive Female Leaders. And I can confirm to you that I met the most amazing women ever, CEOs, CFOs, COOs of big South African companies. And I want to put a stamp to the 4 things that I shared earlier. None of these women got to the top without those 4 things that I mentioned. All of them know who they are, and they write it down. They know their vision, and they write it down. Number 2, they've been through so many challenges in the boardroom and outside of the boardroom, but they embrace the challenges. They live with the challenges positively. Number 3, they all had mentors. They all had coaches. You can't just, do things on your own. You need to get the advice. Follow people who are already where you want to go. And lastly, all of them emphasized the importance of being in an environment or working in an organization where your values and your purpose is aligned to that organization. Thank you. I appreciate you listening to me, and I look forward to listening to your stories in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. I think you sit. Thank you so much, Lindo Guhle, for such an insightful address. And I'd just love to say the one thing: you are no longer being average. I love that. And it's what you tell yourself. It's talking about self-awareness. It's talking about self-actualization and knowing where you're going and writing it down and having a proper plan in place. And also then with mentorship and coaching, building rapport with the people that are doing what you are doing in the way that you want to do it in the future. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next panelist is the Vice President at Casada Capital. She has 12 years in the mergers and acquisition and private equity spaces in Africa and other emerging markets. She has a great passion for education and mentoring startups across the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Buhle Ndlovu to the stage.
Are you sure it's Buhle, not Buhle? That's actually hilarious. As a KZN Zulu, Buhle.
Yeah.
Not Buhle, Buhle. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Listen, Nikon, are you guys still here? Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, I've been told to be very brief. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys. I think, I think about when I started finance and banking, and to sort of be in a space like this was inconceivable. Like, I'll go into it a bit later, but I really remember the first time I walked into, we'll say, whatever bank that I was working for at the time. But out of a team of corporate finance professionals of about 50, there were 3 women. So you walk in, no one looks like you, no one sounds like you. It's all, it's all very different. Okay, so in terms of sort of just, I guess, getting you to know me a bit better and sort of letting you know about my journey, I think it's really important to sort of just give a brief background of who I am and how I got here. I always call myself the accidental banker, but also the accidental private equity professional. I never really meant to be in this space. I came from a space where, I think from an early age, I knew that I really wanted perhaps to serve but also to make a positive difference in my community or wherever I was. And that really came from more my mother and the spaces in which I was in. Don't ask me what that meant in terms of like what I was going to study or what I was going to do. I just knew that I definitely wanted to serve. I knew what I was really good at, accounting, maths, that kind of thing. So to cut a long story short, doing really well in academics, always wanted to go overseas. I get a full scholarship at the age of 15. So I moved to Canada. And this is literally one of those things where it kind of aligned in a way where I think a boarder I lived with at Panelist Girls High got a similar scholarship the year before. And then my mom saw a cut out in a newspaper. She was like, oh, this would be right up your alley. Wouldn't you be interested? Learned about the program. I was super into it. I was convinced. The whole ethos of the school was that they try to use education as a bridge to sort of get people to know each other from different countries. So you apply, you get in on merit, $60,000 scholarship, just like that. It was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. So I go to Canada. I think, it's a 2-year program. I'm going to go to Canada for 2 years, come back, go to UCT. Still pretty much like accounting, maybe BSCA, that's kind of my thing. I get to Canada, and you take for granted some of the things other people learn when we don't learn. I felt that before that, I was very structured. I did accounting, I did bio, I was always very smart, always top 2, top 3. I kind of knew where I was going. I couldn't really tell you at that point how that would get me to get to the point where I sort of serve or I make the world a better place, but I could definitely tell you I enjoyed the things I was doing. I'm not entirely sure whether I knew the steps I needed to take to get there, but I knew that my end goal was I wanted to make a positive difference in whatever I was doing. So I do that. Now I'm still in high school, right? So now I'm doing philosophy, I'm doing economics. I'm like, oh, there's a world outside of accounting. People are just having it, hey? Like people are having a good time and learning things they actually enjoy. I do that. I go into university in the States. I double major in economics and Chinese.
Wow.
At that point, actually, you know what? The problem is my parents didn't actually ask me. My parents have always sort of afforded me time to sort of just do what I want, which is for a black household is, it's freeing, but it's also a little worrying at times. I even remember like a few of my friends' parents being like, so, economics, Chinese, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to be an ambassador? What's the deal? And it's a different generation, but also the schooling system in South Africa versus overseas is so different. They're literally just told, do whatever makes you happy, and you'll figure out the money afterwards, which was actually so mind-blowing. So I do that. Eventually, obviously, a lot of people post-university stay in the States. For me, there was never a question about it. I was going to come back home. I didn't know what I was going to do when I was back home. I don't know who needs like a Chinese translator or an economist, but I was like, I know at the end of the day, I want to have as much impact as I possibly can. So in this time, I'm doing internships in banking, etc. I get an internship to go to London at the peak of the financial crisis in 2008. So I'm just like, my mind blown. At that time, I'm like, okay, maybe, development finance, maybe I'll work for a World Bank. That's kind of, you're helping people, I had this really interesting boss who actually used to work for the World Bank at my first internship, and he's like, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of bureaucracy. You don't really get anything done. And it's interesting that he actually went from the World Bank / the Oxfam to this big international bank. So we're okay, it's fine. At that point in time, I'm probably first year university, a few more internships. I kind of get to know banking a bit better. I get to understand how things work. And so I get a call from my former employer, and they go, hey, you did Chinese, right? Yes. We're opening up a China-Africa banking department in South Africa. Would you like to come join? Obviously, most of the clients are Chinese. You speak Chinese? I'm like, Chinese clients also speak English, but we'll pretend that's not a thing. Sure. Would love to up my alley. I definitely want to head home. No one's actually questioning me at this point about coming home, to be honest. But I'm like, the US is not for me. I really know that this is the long-term plan. How do I get there? Get back, do China-Africa banking. Really interesting. Really interesting. I'm using skills that I have, but I deep down know it's not really for me. And so I sit there, I actually sat next to my boss, and these open plan offices. But I sat across someone else's boss who I really got on with. And at one point I go, hey, let's just grab a coffee. I'd like to know, sort of hear about your journey, what you're doing, etc. And he gives me such solid advice. He's just like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Move as soon as possible. Work out what you need to do to get there. I go, okay. So now I sit down. I start plotting. I'm like, okay, what is the long-term goal? And for me, the long-term goal was what I'm currently doing, actually. So private equity. I wanted to invest into large corporates because to me that meant large corporates. You're creating jobs. You're making a positive impact, right? At this point in time, I'm holding an econ and Chinese degree. Every single person I know who's in that department is an actual scientist, a CA, etc. And I'm like, okay. So clearly I'm not going to get there. So what is the interim step? I bug people for coffees. I sit down with people. And I think what really helped me, and I think this is something, like obviously I think there's quite a few lessons I've sort of learned over time, but one of the key things is that when you apply yourself, even if you don't work directly with people, people start to notice, right? If you really apply yourself, you speak to people, you show that you're really good at what you do and you are really interested in what you do, but also really taking an interest in other people, because you can't walk into the office and be like this. This is your job, but this is not your life. Like, you have to make connections, you have to network, and not necessarily network for the sake of networking. It actually pays to actually care about the people you work with, right? So, because we're all human, and we're not really here for like a 9 to 5, we're here for a long time. So that helped me a lot. And I think moving from China-Africa banking to mergers and acquisitions, it actually had been unheard of. But because I kept pestering people and people saw that I worked really hard, I sort of got given an opportunity to move across. When I got there, I tell you, I was like, I'm not really sure this is it for me. Someone has a sleeping bag underneath their desk. I don't know if this is it. So you go from like, I was enjoying my job, working a 9 to 5, to I was leaving the office at 3 in the morning, probably 2-3 times a week. And so this is constant, right? You're churning out work because that's what mergers and acquisitions do. You advise people, so they're paying for advice. Paying for advice means you have to do as much research as possible. And so also I'm asking myself at the back of my head, I'm like, oh man, this team is like, it's a fairly small team, but actual scientists, CAs, how do I stand out? How do I ensure that if there's a really cool, interesting project in Ghana, I get picked as opposed to someone who's been here a bit longer? And I think here, I really learned that it's really important to sort of find your niche in what you're doing and find what you're really interested in. M&A is really interesting and a really great product to be in. But I found that the way I sort of made it my own and the way people sort of noticing me more was that I kind of just went over and above and beyond. I researched more than everyone because I was never going to beat them at technical skills, right? Like, these people have been here for longer, so how do you then ensure that people are speaking about you in rooms that you're not there? So I'm researching more. People are like, an easy day, people are like 9 p.m. going home. I'm like, I'll be here for another hour. I just need to go through this annual report and show that, I'm focused for tomorrow. So even if deals that you're not actually necessarily on, people would call me and be like, Bushe, did you read this? Do you know anything about this? I'm like, actually, in fact, read about that last week. So then again, really important to find your niche and sort of, even if you're in a department or whatever, all over you're doing something you're all interested in, what's really important is that you know what you really are interested in within that particular thing. And I think I really made it a point to sort of take that and run with it. Sorry, I just want to ensure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay. So I guess also, I think this has kind of been consistent throughout the evening, writing down what you really want. I wouldn't have gotten there if I hadn't known that even though I really enjoyed M&A, and the average lasting years of being in M&A is 2 years, I was there for 5, which shows that, one, I've got a super thick skin. I've everything kind of rolls off my back. I'm like, okay, well, we keep going, How do we move forward? I think, just having a spirit of resilience within the workplace as well. Yes, workplace is supposed to be very collaborative, also having a good time. Sometimes, I always see younger juniors sort of taking things personally, and you're like, it's not personal. People are dealing with a lot of stuff. Just don't take things personally, take it in, move forward, see how you can sort of use it to sort of better yourself. And I think I found that to be, once I knew people being mad, people like not particularly liking anything, had nothing to do with me, I was like, okay, like let's move, we're going forward. I just want to touch on a couple last things before the MC throws me off. Yeah, again, I guess a couple of things, right? I think I've kind of already mentioned it a little bit, but really just the idea of applying yourself. No one owes you anything, and I can't tell you how often, like, I'd work in a pitch deck and like be like, I know everything, and I know everything. I'm there, and then someone else will come in and be like, oh, actually, I read the news this morning. Did you see this? And you're like, no, I didn't actually. But then I started doing that more often. It's just like applying yourself because it makes you more credible. But also then, like, you sort of own your space and own your thing that people can come up to you and be like, oh, like, I heard you're really good at this. Could you help me with that? And I found that happening more and more. The more time I spent sort of just reading through stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with the project that I'm doing, and ensuring that I was speaking to other people, I found that my credibility within not just my team, but within the bank as a whole sort of grew. So then you just hear yourself being mentioned in rooms that you should be mentioned in, and that's what you want, essentially. But to bore you at the end, so again, I used M&A as a stepping stone. I finished M&A. I looked for a private equity job. Couldn't find one I really enjoyed in South Africa. Got an opportunity in Kenya. Moved to Kenya, much to the dismay of my parents. Had a really great time, but I knew also we got to keep moving, Went into my MBA at Oxford, came back, was a founding partner at this fund. I think I'm where I really want to be, I needed to be, but there's quite a few, things that I sort of had to go through. And sort of going through all of those things, I think the one thing that was consistent with me is I'm a list person. Like, I write everything down. Like, this is the goal in 5 years. Okay, how do we then go from there and work backwards? And honestly, that has sort of helped me a lot. And like, I really like the fact that this event is about manifesting. And to be honest, my whole thing, when I heard that it was about manifesting, my thing was that you can manifest all you want, but a goal not written down is just a wish. And it's not a goal, it's not something that you can actually achieve. So like, seriously, write it down, go, this is what you need to do, this is the goal, how do I work backwards, what are the milestones I need to achieve? And I think that has really been the mentality that sort of pushed me forward in my career. I don't know what the next goal is in the next 5, I'd probably be raising my own fund, but but really, I know that like sort of going through these motions, finding like my niche, building relationships, that has really gotten me to where I am, but also just being direct about like, this is what I want. Going up to people you work with and going, okay, how can you help me get to this? Because I feel as if this is what I need to sort of push my career forward. That's pretty much it. I think, thank you so much for having me. Hopefully we can interact a bit better on some questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nobuhle, for your insightful message. And I think like the common thread tonight is to know yourself, what you are or who you are in whatever space that you are in. And also to your end goal of making a positive impact and serving. And I think you are exactly where you want to be right now. I mean, I guess for the next 5 years, right? You are there. And I mean, guys, the wealth of experience that is sitting here, wealth, get it, so the wealth of experience, be a sponge and just take in everything. And also speaking to the two ladies, just to also sharpen your adaptability quotient so that whatever happens, whatever challenges that you have, the thick skin is experience. That thick skin is the challenges that are giving you an opportunity to excel and go beyond your own imagination, and writing it down. And later on, we are going to have an opportunity to manifest and write things down and let it go and put it out to the universe and pray for the best and work on the best and be positive and bring back that energy that we are manifesting today. Our last panelist is this lady, the founder of the Next Chapter Wealth Partners. She was named 100 Most Influential Persons of African Descent class of 2018, Entrepreneur Magazine Top 50 Black African Women to Watch in 2018. She is also well known for her financial wellness feature on Talk Radio 702. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our third panelist, Samkem Mhlongo, to the stage.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Hey, I'm a podium. Avenglula, oh really? Do I have to? Avenglula, I'm a podium. Allow me to just use this platform. Pun intended. Good evening. My name is Samkem Mhlongo, and I often wonder if I really am a woman in finance, because what does being in finance even really mean in today's world? I mean, we look at the biggest disruptors of the financial world are now telcos. You know, we talk about arenas. We look at the biggest or fastest growing currencies, or not even currencies at all. So what does it mean to be a woman in finance? I don't write things down like my speech. My daughter's like, "Mommy, where's your speech?" She's in the black in the corner over there. And I said, it's in my head. And I guess it's just testament to the fact that just because there is a way that works doesn't mean it's the only way that works. And I found that the more I embraced my way, hey, paparazzi. The more I embraced my way, which, by the way, is not always the way you've predetermined, which, by the way, is not always the way you've hoped things would go, but rather the way your life has turned out or the journey that life has taken you on. The more you embrace that, the closer I've found that I've aligned to my purpose, and I am of the belief that your wealth sits squarely in your purpose. Not in your career, which could be your purpose, all right? So if your career is your purpose, your wealth will be there. If your career is not your purpose, you may be rich. You may be rich. But I don't think you'll be wealthy. We could have another conversation around what wealth is, because we tend to think it's just monetary. But I've been broke many times, and I walk past and people say, "You smell like money." That's that intrinsic wealth, honey. That's not that wealth that depends on your bank balance. That's that wealth that says, "I know who I am regardless of my bank balance." Right? And a lot of us have forgotten that. That whether or not our job titles say we are this or that, whether or not our bank balance says we are this or that, intrinsically we are of value. And unless and until we believe we are of value, we won't behave as beings of value, and we won't treat others as beings of value. I've also always said, your physical world is a manifestation of your spiritual beliefs. Where you are, what you see, what you have or don't have, is a direct reflection of your deepest beliefs, conscious and subconscious. I say that because where I am today looks nothing like where I thought I would be in 5 years' time. And yes, I do write, actually. I journal. I'm also recently an author, which Aurelia left out my profile because I don't know why I'm being cheated of my accolades. Oh, it's cut. Oh, no problem. No problem. But if we're going to talk about manifestation, and if I'm going to keep to the time limit Sbu has given me, I guess my biggest manifestation, I'll talk about 3. The first one being my book, Ring Fence. You'll know the title, Ring Fence, because it's actually a banking term, all right? To set up a structure that a company sets up SPVs or certain structures, legal and otherwise, to protect its most valuable assets or revenue streams when going through a risky transaction. And so I wrote the book Ring Fence for every woman that is done being strong, as a manual for her to set up the necessary structures to protect herself. And the message I inscribe is that may you always remember that you're your most valuable asset. Because too many times in life, we as women believe that we need to set ourselves on fire to keep others warm. I'll say it again louder for the people at the back. Too many times in life, in fact, society rewards us women for setting ourselves on fire to keep others warm. Society rewards us women for being strong. And I keep saying, why is it? Have you never stopped to think, why is it society loves a strong woman but hates a powerful one? Because when you are strong, you endure pain. When you're powerful, you act out against it. Me, I'm not strong. Don't ever give me that accolade. No thanks. I'm fragile. Watinta mina ngaphuka. Okay? But I'm powerful, in that I will not let you get away with it. I will speak out against injustice. I will act out against injustice. I will preach against injustice. And so that was manifestation number 1. And why do I call it a manifestation? Because when I was going through my process of divorce, I was married at 21. Papa. I was married at 21, divorced at 29, and going through that process, one of my darkest times, I remember writing in my journal, 2015, and I journal on my in a Word document, so I can actually go back years and years, and I don't have the risk of also losing what I've journaled because it's backed up to the cloud, right? Or wherever it is Android people back up to. And I had journaled in 2015 that, I'm going through such a tough time, but I need to keep going because it cannot be that I'm going through such a tough time for nothing. There must be a reason. See, the universe does not disrupt for fun. It disrupts where it's necessary. And we know that it's often said that every generation has people that are actually called upon to be of service in that generation. The liberation did not end with the struggle forefathers. We're actually in a new liberation. I will not go into politics, let me. And I journaled. It was August 2015, and I said, I feel like everything that I'm going through and everything that I'm writing in this journal is going to be read in a book in 5 years' time. Because it cannot be for nothing. And if it is for nothing, if I look back and realize, okay, all of that was for nothing, at least the hope I have today that what I'm going through has a purpose, has a meaning, is the hope I need to keep going. 5 years later, in November 2020, I released my book with that actual journal entry in there. To the date, middle of lockdown, during a pandemic, no sponsors wanted to come to me and sponsor the launch, the book, anything. It cost me a cool 250,000 Rand from conception to having the book in stores. But it was a price I was willing to pay because a seed had been planted. And even though I'd forgotten about that seed, someone spiritual had said to me, I need to speak to you. I see you writing something. You're in a jail cell. and your life won't change until you've written whatever it is you need to write. Apparently, you know what it is. That was manifestation number one. And my life did change subsequent to that. And not only my life, but the ripple effects of why the book had to come out when it did. I don't need to tell you the statistics around GBV during lockdown. I don't need to tell you the statistics around divorce, femicide, rape in South Africa, exacerbated by the economic climate we're facing. And so often when I would pray whilst writing that book, I'd reflect on the book of Esther, where she says, I have been born for such a time as this. Manifestation number one. Manifestation number two. I mean, I'm sure you can hear from the twang that, okay, this chick has had a good life. You know what I'm saying? Not going to pretend. Going to own my story. Soft has always been a part of my life. And it is what it is, okay? All right, take it up with God. And I realized, that my life changed when I was going through my divorce, not only in terms of, the friendships that were broken up, not only in terms of kind of not getting the support I thought I would get from certain stakeholders in my life, who, don't worry, sis, I know you know, where you're like, how? We are not receiving a makoti, we are receiving a daughter, but now, what's going on? Anyway, or even just friends and family. And I remember it actually even happened just yesterday. I was at the APSIP conference and a friend of mine was like, yeah, let's not sit together because they're going to think we're the divorced crew. I'm like, it's a beautiful thing that we didn't stay in marriages that didn't serve us. Why is it not, you know what I'm saying? And so I was very against the stigma attached to being a divorcee. And about 4 years ago, I started hashtagging because everyone used to say, Samke, you look like a real housewife. I'm like, no, honey, I'm a real divorcee. And I started hashtagging my posts, real divorcee, real divorcee, real divorcee. And I pitched a number of times a TV series that actually follows women that are real divorcees, that like the finer things in life and are doing so on their own name and on their own check. And I'm pleased to say, no, real divorcees is not a thing, but I'm pleased to say, last week, Monday, on SABC 1 at 9 p.m., The Queens of Mzansi premiered, of which I'm one of the main cast members, and it looks at widows and divorcees and single women and women who are doing it on their own. Second manifestation. Final manifestation. Wait, which one did I pick? Ziningi man. Final manifestation, anyway. I've always seen myself as a global citizen. South Africa is cute and everything, but once you've traveled, you're like, we don't really have it like we think we have it. You know what I'm saying? Once you've been to Lagos and you've, kind of sampled in Okonko, you're like, whoa, child, what? You guys are working with this in your country? No shade to the spoos and fundos in the room. We see you. We see you too. But I've always thought of myself as a global citizen, and I've always, I've actually written 3 poems for New York City. I've always had this fondness and affinity to New York City. When you're walking down the streets, Manhattan, and you're just like, your soul is different. Anyway, long story short, last year I went through a very difficult time period in my life, and I decided, screw it, packing my bags, I just need a change of scenery. Now, remember, it's July. South Africa's banned from entering a number of countries directly because of COVID. There's COVID. You're scared that if you step out the house, you're either going to get killed by COVID or the looters. Remember that time where it was rough. Anyway, I decide, no, I need to get out. I'm going insane. And obviously, I told you, sis, soft life. I'm like, okay, visa-free countries. I'm not trying to find myself in Vietnam or something. So I do have a US visa, But I first need to quarantine, so I spent 2 weeks in Kenya and Nairobi. And it was lovely. It was lovely. Went to the Masai Mara, everything. So I was like, okay, God, this is beautiful. And then landed in Atlanta to stay with someone I'd never met in my life. I just knew from a professional circle. Long story short, within 2 weeks, I was needing a place to stay. And I was like, no, my story is not, it doesn't feel done. And sometimes you must just feel. Sometimes you must forget the equations of life and just feel. And long story short, I was in Atlanta for some total of 6 months and found myself a very special somebody who, let's just say I could very well be a global citizen if things go as they are going now. So 3 instances of manifesting. Number 1, not realizing that I was actually birthing this book that, it's doing things, Shame, this book. Birthing this book that has indeed changed my life, but has gone to change other lives, just in terms of the DMs and the messages I get from women that said, this was what I needed. A book where I'm actually only going on the first book tour next month, but it's been selling out simply by word of mouth. Number 2, not knowing that, when I'm busy hashtagging real divorcees, when I'm busy putting out this message to say whether or not you're married, divorced, widowed, whatever, your title you hold, your intrinsic value always shines through. And you need to remind the world of your intrinsic value by how you carry yourself, that I was subconsciously birthing this show that I'm now on. And obviously, finally, just connecting with the elements, the earth, the air, being one with nature. They call it earthing, where you actually walk barefoot and connect with the soul of the land. I didn't know that in doing that, I was actually creating this rhythm with this country that is the US to say, I want a chapter here. And my consultancy, yes, the next chapter, Wealth Partners, is far from what I thought it would be when it started out, and has become more a companion for women primarily on their journey to wealth. And as we know, there are many non-financial challenges to a woman's wealth journey, like dealing with societal norms, like dealing with having a fantastic meeting with your financial planner. We need to draft a will. Yes, I'm A for away. You go home and Tabo says, oh, but and that's the end of the conversation. So psychologists, lawyers, coaches, that's what this wealth practice, this wealth partnership practice has become. So ladies and gentlemen, my time is up. I am absolutely privileged to be here. And if you take nothing else from my address today, I hope you take the reminder to always revert and operate from your intrinsic value. Thank you.
Wow. You are a fireball, as I remembered you 2 years ago before the book. Do get the book, guys. She's mentioned it, and it is a brilliant book, and it does help women. I myself have had the copy. I was there at the launch, and it was amazing. But I think the one thing that I could actually even take away from what you were saying as I was jotting down is we operate by purpose. So wherever purpose is not identified, it cannot be defined. And I think with just the panelists that we have, you guys have defined your purpose, you have defined your goals, you have defined the type of woman that you want to be. You've envisioned this soft woman who's an egg. And that's who you are, fragile. And I think it's really, really important to encourage and motivate other women. And we're going to have a Q&A. You guys can ask our panelists questions. But just to talk about, you guys have already spoken about your manifestation and how you do it. So, Samke, you journal. Buhle?
I meditate. I meditate and I journal, actually. So I'm a huge believer in writing things down.
Lindo Buhle, not Lindo.
I journal as well, but I also surround myself with positive people, people who think the same way that I do.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be sitting in a room and talking about my dream and someone is like, "Ooh, yeah, kulalo." Like, that's not going to happen. So you need to surround yourself with people who get it.
Absolutely. We also are live streaming via TimesLIVE, and there are questions that are going to be coming in, and we do have a roving mic for anybody that has questions for our panelist. Questions? Anyone? Table number 3 from the back.
This
Sorry?
panel seems very
Fun.
It's really an inspiring evening. Me personally, I think I could relate before I had 3 different stories that I could relate to. I just wanted to ask, like, how do you keep yourself motivated? The career, like your career journey, especially as a woman, is not always as easy. How do you do that? How do you keep going? Because I know what you said, you have to keep going, even though there's like negative things coming. How do you do that? How do you keep that drive?
I mean, I'll start by saying I back myself, hey? And you can't get far without backing yourself. Like, it gets to a point where there's skill, there's effort, and then you've just got to have the confidence. And for me, it's also just really more about the fact that I've created a life that I'm very happy with. A lot of that has to do with balance. So I have a career. My career is not everything. I'm interested in so many different things, and I think the fact that I'm interested in so many different things means that I also don't get bored. So that I'm always like, I always have energy because I'm like, oh, I have my podcast, I do my mentoring of startups, which I really enjoy. So with everything that I sort of do, one, it keeps me in balance, but intrinsically, you really just need to back yourself. Because if you don't back yourself, no one else will.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to pose this to you, Lindo Goshe. I mean, in your bio, you spoke about how you have this 9 to 5 and you have your own your investment company as well. I think offline, the one conversation we're having, because of young professionals that are now encouraged to have side hustles and multiple streams of income, and some of the stores as well, where it's young professionals who were the corporate girls who've now turned into entrepreneurs. How can you motivate them and actually just to speak about the barriers that you have in corporate when you have your side hustle?
So I think it's on. I think the main thing, earlier on I talked about being authentic, right? So we know that when you're in corporate, there's rules, there's conflict of interest, there's all of those things. Number one, you need to understand, if you're doing a side hustle, you need to understand, is it a conflict of interest? If you're not sure, corporates actually allow you to disclose. You need to disclose, what are you doing? So I confidently speak about my investment company. My boss knows about it, and I have disclosed it, and I do share. So if when you disclose, they even ask you questions. So how much time do you use, to run this business, etc., etc. So me being authentic and being real, I make sure that when it's 9 to 5, in fact, I don't have a 9 to 5, sometimes it's 9 to 9, but I make sure that what I need to do for Nedbank, I do it. This does not affect my job at all, right? It's a side hustle. It's something small. It's something that I envision to grow one day, something that's going to employ me one day. But I need to work at Nedbank, acquire the skills, acquire the experience, and I need to give it my all, right? So I would say that if you are employed by anyone and you actually don't get the support that you need in terms of starting your side hustle, don't be scared, don't fear. There are policies. As long as you do the right thing, you tell your truth, you disclose what you need to disclose, do it. Do it. Don't be limited by, because sometimes you'll have a manager who's like, okay, you came in at quarter to 9. That means you started at your side hustle, So again, you also need to be real and truthful and do what is right. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Cool. Do you have any more questions? Sorry?
I do have a question. I was waiting for the mic, though. That's fine. I think you guys can hear me.
Please may you wait for the mic, sir. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Guys, hello? Oh, yeah. Guys, thank you very much for your stories. I feel like I related to every one of those stories. I feel like, you know that song, I'm Every Woman?
Oh, wow.
That's what I felt like that when you guys were talking. Lindo. Like, it was so cool that you were talking about your experience. I think your experience is the experience of a lot of people who feel like they can't move from where they are like fulfilling their potential. And that was really cool. I connected with you with that. Wule, really cool. Your story about how much risk you take, and how resilient you are, and also how much work you put in. It's really cool. I want you to come and say that to the people that work with us, because it is actually the only way you go up. And it's a story of a lot of people that have strived, you know, that work is really important. I really dig that, and I think you put it in a very nice place like that. Yeah, you and Beyonce. Like, your energy is amazing, and yeah, I think you inspire a lot of people. And I said preach. It sounded like preaching. It really inspires people and moves people. You got a gift for that. And thank you for all the panelists. You guys were amazing. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. So I'd just like to say that I really do appreciate the wise words that you guys have shared with us tonight. You guys are amazing, powerful, inspiring women, especially in the field of finance. So my question, like, I was raised by women mostly, and you know, I've realized when it comes to the investing space, and women can save. Women can freaking save. But when it comes to growing the balls to invest, it's like they take a step back. And I just want to understand, like, what words of wisdom can you give to women like that? Because you spoke about being a global citizen, and I fortunately got the opportunity to go to Ukraine for like a couple of months and also tour a couple of European countries. And I realized, like, the way we exchange money is far different, more advanced. And I know, like, right now, like, the South African Reserve Bank just implemented crypto to be allowed. But anyway, I just wanted to find out what words of wisdom could somebody like myself give to my sisters, my grandmothers, my aunts, so that they can make money through investing. Because you can literally make so much money from just knowing which assets, which financial assets to interact with, which financial assets to read up on every day, like you spoke about reading. I have Investing 24 on my app. I have Crypto.com. I have so many apps which update me on financial occurrences that happen. Now, how do you, even with all those tools, how do you now push people, especially women, to that space? Because it seems like it's a fear that they have internally. How do we achieve that? Because we need more women to be balling. It's so nice to see a woman in a luxurious Range Rover SVR or Range Rover Luma. It looks good. You're glowing. Your car looks good. Even as a young boy, when you look up, you're like, "Ish maralo mama ne." One day. It's like, that's the type of environment I would like my kids to grow up in, because that's the type of environment I grew up in. And I must say, it's more of a privilege to look up to a woman, especially because as you grow up, you learn to realize that they face 10 times the obstacles you face to succeed as a man. I think, sorry, before I get carried away.
Thank you. So, anybody care to take take the question. And then we have one more question, and that will be the end of it for tonight, guys. Our mains are being plated.
I'll
Okay.
go for it because
Go.
I mean I was obviously in private banking for 7 years, and then I've been on my own for 5 years in the financial wellness space, and it's, I mean, from an anecdotal and personal experience in terms of the clients I deal with, but also research supports that there's a major confidence gap that exists between men and women when it comes to investing. And unfortunately, that confidence gap starts right down from childhood. There's a recent study done in the US that gives a score of your ACEs, your adverse childhood experiences, and says that if you've experienced at least 3 adverse childhood experiences, like growing up in a home where there is alcohol abuse, like being neglected by your parents, it actually not only affects you physiologically, but it affects even the way you make your decisions around money. And so when you are growing up in an environment where you are told, don't climb on that, you're going to get hurt. It actually builds inside you an intrinsic fear of taking on risk. And so as much as women are better savers than men, they are poorer investors, which is one of the contributors to what is known as the gender wealth gap. We often talk about the gender pay gap, which is the difference in earnings, but there is now the gender wealth gap that says even those males and females that are earning the same, the sum total of the wealth accumulated by the man will be about $1.3 million over a lifetime than that of a woman, because of factors such as making poorer investment decisions, paying more for debt because women don't negotiate their loans. They simply take whatever deal is given to them by the bank, be appreciative of it. So it all stems from confidence. And the advice that I would give to your sister or your mom wouldn't actually be financial advice. It would be psychological advice. They need to actually see a psychologist to unpack whatever childhood trauma they're carrying that has said to them they cannot take on risk. Then they need to marry that with a personal development coach to now coach them in them taking those risks. So at the point where I was sending about 8 out of 10 of my clients to psychologists before giving them the financial implementation is the point at which I realized that the non-financial challenges to wealth creation are as significant as the financial ones.
Yeah.
I guess I would also just say not to look at it in silo. I think, you can look at it in a way that you're looking at a man and female earning the same, but you also need to have money to invest, right? Like if you don't have money, there's no point of investing. If you really are still struggling to save up, then it's a conversation that's honestly just not worth having. I think I live by a ratio motto. I try to save at least 20% of my net per month. I also have a little sludge fund for investing, and I think a lot of, you're the professional here more than I am, but like a lot of, if you go to someone to give you this advice, they'll actually give you ratios of where once you get to a point where you're comfortable and you are contributing to a long-term, be it Coronation, be it Alexander Forbes, you actually have to look at ratios and go, I'm saving this much, I'm investing this much. It is a risk thing, but the risk that you're taking is that you don't have anything to fall back on, right? So if you get that base right, then you actually can have the confidence to sort of take a 5%, a 10% of your salary and go, let me put that away. Maybe, I can actually do way more. And the truth is, investing obviously very often does work, but also the markets the last year have been complete trash. So then I would then go the other way and go, actually, the people who've saved versus the people who invested quite often the last 6 months have done better. So you have to sort of understand where it sort of stacks up with each other. You have to have each bucket sort of stand on its own. It can't just be that we're investing. We have to invest with a really good base behind us.
And an emergency fund that has an emergency fund.
Hi, ladies. I just wanted to find out, as a mother, how do you guys deal with mom guilt with relation to working so many hours and feeling guilty that you're not having enough time with your babies? Thank you.
I think for me, I was so fortunate. The silver lining of COVID is that working from home was implemented. So I work probably by 7, I'm up, I'm working right through till 7 at night, sitting in meetings. I can hear his voice, he's downstairs and I can hear his voice. But I think I was very privileged because I never experienced separation anxiety and, all the stories that I've had from other moms. But one thing for sure, I really believe in creating, like Butle was speaking about, she saves or she invests 20% of her money. I look at my life like that, and I actually put percentages to this is how much I'm going to invest in work, this is how much time I'm going to invest in my son, this is how much time I'm going to invest in my family. And if you don't create that structure for yourself, then, your mind goes haywire. So I've got a clear structure. I spend time with him. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Pray for an environment that is aligned to your values and your purpose. Amen. Nedbank allows me to spend time with my son. Yes, there are days where I work hectic hours, but my boss is so understanding that, yesterday was hectic. Tomorrow, Friday, let's knock off at 3. Then I can spend time with him. So it's really about also being intentional. You have to be intentional that I'm going to spend so much time with him, and you have to do it. And people around you also need to know. So my friends know, my family know. When it's time for this person, my husband, for example, it's time for him. Yeah.
Samke?
I'm not coping.
Love the authenticity.
I have a consultation with my shrink next month because I'm not coping. That's just facts. I've got a unique structure, but an increasingly popular structure in that my ex-husband actually has primary residence of my children. So I am like a bachelorette, but I still have okay, am I doing too little? Am I doing too much? Am I living it up too much when I should perhaps be sad that they're not around? But I'm not too sad, so I don't know. I'm not coping, is the short and long of it.
Yeah. I think just to touch on what Lindo was saying as well, and especially with those examples, it's, I don't believe in finding a balance. It's finding harmony with everything that you want to invest yourself in. So it's finding harmony, spending time with your kids. It's finding harmony in your side hustle. It's finding harmony in your work. It's finding harmony in your passions. So don't strive for balance, because people are dying by balance. They are not coping by balance, because we've been told, yes, you must find a balance. As a woman, you must find a balance. There isn't a balance, and if somebody knew the balance, we would all have the answers by now. So find harmony.
Yeah.
And with that said, thank you so much for being here and sharing and encouraging and motivating. And thank you to our online live stream with TimesLIVE. And thank you for joining us. And we are now off to eat our mains. And I'm going to invite Chef KG to tell us about our mains and our pairing.